Well, I knew because he had the leukemia, and he never told anyone how bad it might have really been, because it was a lot worse than he ever let on. But he still would do whatever he wanted to do. I mean, and that was him. I mean, he was a tough guy. And that's why he had the moniker TMA, which stood for Toughest Man Alive. He got that name years ago up at Saratoga. One of our other old colleagues named Keith Martyr and I and Matt were in the paddock for watching the horses being saddled. And Eddie Maple, jockey, was on one of the horses going out. And Eddie Maple had a reputation of being a pretty tough guy. And as he's going out, Keith Martyr looked at us and goes, "There goes the toughest man alive." And Matt just looked at him, didn't miss him. He goes, "The second toughest." So that's how the name TMA began with Matt Graves. And I think he got a kick out of it. He didn't dispute it.
After Matt passed, we decided that we wanted to do something special. Of course, NYRA, you can have a race named after yourself, or a friend, or whomever. And we've done that. So what we decided we were going to do is we were going to have a race named after Matt Graves, handicapped or something like that. And then NYRA, through Timmy Wilkin, decided that they were going to foot the bill for that. So NYRA is going to have Matt Graves' race, and we're going to have a party in Matt Graves' honor.
One of the things we're looking forward to at opening day is just sharing Matty Graves stories and our favorites. And it's something I'm looking forward to, so I'm saving my favorite story.
Well, they're going to have a party for him at the Hamburger Shack right outside the clubhouse gate. It's on Wright Street, and they've rented it out, and it's going to be an all-day party for Matt. And I believe it's $20 to get in. And the New York Racing Association is graciously said there's going to be a race named for Matt on opening day, so that he would get a huge kick out of. Matt wanted everyone to remember him, and no one would ever forget him, and this is going to be something that I think a lot of people are going to go up there and raise a glass and bet a favorite and put a toast up to Matty Graves, and he would have just gotten the absolute joy of that, because that's what he loves, Saratoga and having a good time. You go up to Saratoga long enough, you meet racetrack characters. Jarbo's definitely at the top of the list as one of the all-time racetrack characters at Saratoga. There's no question about that. Matt Graves knew that Jarbo liked the horses, so it didn't take long before he became the new handicapper, and Matt used to say, "I've created a new Frankenstein monster," because Jarbo became, he became part of the Saratoga scene, and, it goes down from, Mary Lou Whitney knew who Jarbo was, even though she said he looked like a bad Santa Claus, and Jack Knowlton, the owner of Funnyside, he got a kick out of Jarbo. And Jack Knowlton became part of our running gag that we did in the Times-Union every day. And it was, and Mike just loved that. He just really loved being in the limelight, so to say. He would love to walk around the clubhouse, and he'd want me to go with him all the time. And I said, "Mike, I got work to do." And he goes, "Come on," because he wanted people to see him. Because, 11 months out of the year, he's a copy editor at the Times-Union. And I would always say, well, you get to crawl out of your rock, underneath your rock for the Saratoga meet. And he would, for some reason, people really gravitated to Jarbo, and they thought I was the bad guy. And other people thought Jarbo didn't even exist. They thought it was something that I'd made up, because how can there'd be a real guy like this? And he'd walk around, and and always had a baseball hat on too. He wanted to go to the Horseshoe a lot after the races. The thing with Mike, he worked at the Times-Union at night, and he'd be at the races all day, then he'd go down and work at the Times-Union till 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. Then he'd turn around and do it all again. I don't know how he did it, but he did. But when the days that he was off, he'd want to go over to the horseshoe. I said, "What do you want to go over there for?" He goes, "I want people to see me." I was like, ugh. So we'd go over there, and I swear to goodness, people would stop, and this happened more than once, wanted to have their pictures taken with Jarbo. And then I always say to Jarbo, I said, as soon as they get home, they're going to delete that out of their phone because who are you? And he goes, "The people love me up here at Saratoga." He goes, "These are all my people." And he goes, and he also called himself a beloved character. And maybe he was. I mean, he was just a good soul. It's not like he was a dummy as it came to horse racing. He was a good handicapper, but he didn't follow horse racing per se. And I would ask him every year, who's running in the Kentucky Derby? I don't know. Who won the Travers last year? I don't know. He goes, "I'm worried about the second race at Belmont tomorrow." That's the way he was. And I said, "Jarbo, how can you possibly follow this sport and not know who's in the sport?" And he's like, "I don't worry about things like that. I just worry about trying to give winners to, as he said, my people." I never met a guy that could laugh at himself like Jarbo could. People would bust on him all the time, and he would, and it's not like he would take it, and he would just laugh right along with him. I mean, this thing that we did every year for about 15 years in the green sheet in the Times-Union was we'd had a bankroll every year, and it was me against Jarbo, and every 10 days of the meet I'd give him a new nickname. I mean, there were some doozies in there. I mean, Matt Graves gave me one of the names for him, called him Crumbs, because if you looked at his desk, all it was crumbs from everything he'd eaten. He was almost like a cartoon character up there because he loved to eat. He led the league up there in eating hot dogs in the press box at Saratoga, and that's he was just fun to be around. He was, not as quick a wit as Matt Graves, but he had his moments where he would make people laugh too, and it's just his appearance too. He always would have the jeans on, sneakers, shirt that would look like he just picked it up off the floor. He was, I don't know what you'd equate it to, but he was like a guy that looked like he never did laundry in his life. But it wasn't like I think he bathed though. If it came down to Mike handicapping the third race at Saratoga, going to get a bowl of clam chowder soup from Pedro up in the press box, he's running over people to get that soup. Pedro, the press box chef, always got a kick out of the fact that Jarbo would put scrambled eggs in his clam chowder. Yeah, I mean, I was like, I said, "I don't know what's in your stomach, Jarbo, but it can't be good." He would put stuff, he'd eat all day. He'd eat all day. I don't know if they fed him at home or not, but he always said at Saratoga he never had to buy any groceries. I mean, maybe Naira will make money now that he's not around to eat all their food. And that was another thing I would goof on him about, his fiddle playing, but he was good. I mean, he would go to these fiddling conventions in North Carolina, out to Massachusetts, and I guess in the fiddling world, he was well known. I mean, I would always just say it was just scratch music because it didn't, he was, I said, what, the names of some of these songs he played, he was like, things I've never heard of. It was like Old Yellow Dog Running Through the Meeting House, whatever that means. And he had a CD made, and he gave one of them to the trainer Eric Guillot, the Cajun trainer, who was a piece of work in his own right. But Guillot told me that he was driving down the street one day, and he said, "I'll put Jarbo's tape in the radio, in the cassette. He said he was at a red light, and he turned it on and blared it, and he said, I looked out the window and all the birds in the tree just started flying away. He called, Eric called Jarboe Good Time Charlie Daniels before Jenny Craig, or after Jenny Craig, because Mike had lost some weight. But and Jarboe would go over to Eric's Cajun cookout and probably eat him out of house and home, but I think even Guillot just met him and liked him immediately. No question, there's just going to be such a huge void in the press box. I mean, for me, it's going to be tough because I worked with Matty for nearly 30 years up there, and Mike for almost 20. And seeing and I know them, and they were friends of mine. It's not like I would just see them at Saratoga. The fun didn't stop after Saratoga. And, it's just, and I think the people that have followed horse racing in this area through the Times Union, they're going to miss that. They're going to miss Matt, because he never stopped writing for us. He wrote right up until the time of his passing, and he was covering RPI right up until the time. And Jarboe was, even though he was only, visible during the Saratoga meet, it was almost, like I said before, it's like he just reappeared from under his rock for 7 weeks out of the year, and then he would disappear back under the rock. I think Pedro, the press box chef, said that after the Saratoga meet ended, Jarboe just disappeared into the pond like the Loch Ness Monster, and he would come back out the following summer. And he was, it's going to be a lot different up there. I mean, there's been a lot of people over the years we've lost, but these are the first two that have really hit me on a personal level like this. And it's going to be tough without them.